Hey, what's going on YouTube? In today's video, we are going to do a tutorial installing Kanboard. If you have seen in the past 2 weeks, I had covered 2 different solutions, project management solutions, in order to manage the various projects that I am charged with. All of those are just self-passionate projects that I am enjoying doing on the side. One of them being YouTube, obviously CyberMe, and maybe some other channels in the future. I needed a way to just manage my daily tasks, my school, CyberMe, even stuff around the house. So I'm going to create different things, and the solution that I found to be the best is going to be Kanboard, and I'm going to explain the reason why in this video. We're going to cover the steps from installing it. We're going to kind of cover some simple steps on how to create a project, and then a few plugins. It's all very easy. It's definitely worth your while to learn, because you could use this skill out in the industry, because you could also integrate with different things that are used today in a production environment. I've even seen Kanboard used in a production environment from what I've been reading. So it's definitely worth your time. Give it a look. If you enjoy this video, drop a like, subscribe for more, and let's get started. Alright, so the first step is going to be installing Apache, or if you're not using Apache and you want to use a reverse proxy to host your different web apps, you're going to have to uninstall Apache and install that reverse proxy. So we're going to do exactly that. We're going to use a reverse proxy to host this web app. So to do so, we're going to make sure that Apache 2 is not installed. In this case, it is not installed. Next, after you update and upgrade your repositories, you're going to want to install the reverse proxy. Once that is installed, next you want to go ahead and install PHP in the various components that I'm going to list out here. So first, you're going to go ahead and install PHP. I already have it installed, and then you can list out the version, because that's going to determine exactly what version you want for the components or the packages that you are going to install for PHP. And in this case, we have 3.4. And then you are going to want to install the following packages. I meant to say 7.4, not 3.4, which is up here. And then the following packages, which I'm going to copy and paste from my notes, is going to be here. At this point, I was using 7.3, but we have 7.4 installed now. So go ahead and install all of these packages. You could just pause the video here and then just type this out. So sudo apt get install, and then you got the PHP packages here: common, CGI, FPM, SQLite, GD, MB string, XML. And we could just get rid of the 7.4 at the end, but that is fine. We already have it installed. So everything is already installed, but that is what you need in order to have this web application perform correctly. Next, I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but it is in good practice to reset any services related to what we are going to be doing, or in this case, enabling. So we're just going to run enable PHP 7.4. So it's going to enable that FPM service that we had just installed. And then you could even check the status to make sure that it is active and running. Once we have all that installed, we're going to go ahead and edit the reverse proxy configuration file. So you can find that here. Sudo vim, and then here's the configuration file that we want to edit. Then we're going to scroll all the way to the top. That was too far up. And you want to go under here, so it says add index.php to the list if you are using PHP. In this case, we are using PHP, and it already has been added. And you're going to scroll down, and you're going to look for this line here. Again, this has already been modified. So here we got the location. You'll see this already be in there. The only thing that you have to do is there's going to be a comment in each of these, including this curly bracket. So just go ahead, take out that curly bracket comment, take out that one, and then take out that one. All right, so once you make those necessary changes to that configuration file, you're going to want to go over to the Kanboard GitHub repository, and then go under releases, scroll down to the latest. It'll be tagged with latest, and then go down to the assets, and then find the source code zip. Go down to the source code and click right click on zip and get the address, and then copy that link address. And then once you have that link address, you're going to go over back to your machine hosting this web server. And then under this directory here, you're going to want to use wget and install or download that zip file. If you're downloading it in this directory, you're going to have to use sudo permissions depending on how your environment is set up. That's not what we wanted. So sudo wget and then the link. So now we should have that link here, and there's zips right there. So we can go ahead and unzip that package. Again, you're going to need sudo permissions. And now we have the unzipped file here. Let's go ahead and remove the zip file. I'm going to do this a million times, so don't worry about that. So the only thing left now is the actual directory. So let's go ahead and make one more directory. Actually, what we could do is just do move Kanboard. So this is going to move or rename this into Kanboard. Again, I did it. So now we have this directory created, and then inside there we should have the repository or the source code from that repository inside of that directory. Before heading and checking out this new web server that we had just hosted, we want to make some permission changes and some ownership changes. So for the instructions that I was reading, it has you change the ownership for the data directory. For whatever reason, I was still getting some errors, so I just ended up changing ownership for everything. So chown. So we're changing the owner and the group for the entire directory in the files there inside. Don't worry about my typing today. So now if we list out the contents of that directory again, we will now see that we have everything owned by the user and group that we had specified. And then if we head back out and then we just use chmod to change the permissions. So now we have the appropriate permissions and the group set for that directory. So the only thing that I ran into real quick is I just renamed the directory from uppercase to lowercase. As you can see here, for testing purposes, I did create an index.html file to see if it was just not loading the PHP file or the index. It was still an error, and that it was just getting a 404 not found. But then I had used the move command to change this directory to the lowercase version of that directory. Again, I forgot the permission, so I did sudo, and then we had used sudo permissions to change it. I went back inside of this directory, and then I used rm to remove the index file that I had just created for testing. Again, I forgot the permission, so I used sudo again. And now when we head over to the web page, you can see that we are able to load it. So you're going to specify the IP address followed by the directory that we had just created or specified, and now in the lowercase version. And then to log in, you are going to use admin for the username and admin for the password. And just like that, we now have Kanboard running on our web application or running within our web server. So the first thing that we are going to do, just to kind of quickly highlight on what I'm going to use it for and how you could use it. So we are going to set up a new project. I feel like this is the most simplistic solution available. It's all open source, self-hosted, and I'm able to access it anywhere within my own network or even outside if I have a VPN, for instance. So in this case, as I did in the other videos, one of the boards that I want to create and one of the projects that I want to track is my YouTube. So we'll just do YouTube Cyber Me, because I may open up another YouTube channel for a different project. Go ahead and save that out. These are the various options that are available to kind of modify that project that we had just created. A lot of things that we could do here, which we will go maybe into it in another video. For instance, integrations is a good one. And then we could also go into automatic actions, which is awesome. So for instance, if you maybe have a certain user in there, you could assign a certain color. Another good one was add a comment log when moving tasks between columns. That's good. Just some automated functions. There's a lot going on in here, so that's pretty cool. Then you go up at the top and you go to columns. So in here, as you'll see in a minute, we have the backlog, ready, work in progress, and done. We could add a new column, or we can modify it. So in this case, we could leave backlog. Actually, we'll change backlog to ideas. We could provide a description if we deem that is necessary. We'll change this to recording. And that should pretty much be it for now. I'll probably come in here later on my own time and set it up the way I need it, but just to get the point across. So if we go back to the home page, we now have on our dashboard for admin, we now have our one project for CyberMe, our YouTube project. So if we click in here, we now have the various columns. So we have ideas, recording, editing, and upload. So for example, let's say we had an idea. We want to get 1,000 subscribers tomorrow, and I figured out the method to do so, and I'm going to record a video and get it out there. We got some colors that we could assign to it. We can assign it to different names. In this case, it's only going to be me as the admin. Obviously, change the columns, change the priorities. Due date is a big one for me. So in this case, we are going to record this video tomorrow, or we want to, go through the entire process by tomorrow. So that'll be the 22nd of December. And then we will go ahead and save this out. So now we have our get 1,000 subscribers video idea, and that is due for December 22nd as we just defined. You go ahead and set the time in there too. If you go back in here, you can go ahead and set the time and hours and stuff like that. But with that being said, once you go ahead, you can kind of move it to the next step. You could add notes as you're going forward, upload. So that's pretty much what I'm going to be using it for. One of the other reasons why I really like this integration or this solution was the fact that it had plugins. I would say there's about 100 custom plugins that are on here from the community. A lot of stuff going on, which is awesome. Two that I just kind of saw when I was scrolling through here before and I already tried out was calendar. Super easy to set up too, so we'll kind of go through that process now. And then there's another one called Customizer, which is kind of allows you to play around with the theme. They have some predefined themes, and you could also make your own themes within that plugin, which is super cool. So all we're going to do is going to go into, so we're going to get this calendar integration into our Kanboard. So if we go into there, they kind of provide the steps here. Here's the 3 options that we could use in order to get this installed. Easiest way is, well, they're all easy, but if you go ahead and download the zip file and then decompress it into the plugins calendar or plugins directory under calendar. As a note here, it does say that it is case sensitive, so make sure that you have the C in uppercase. So again, we could go to releases at the top, we'll go to source code, zip, and then copy the link address. Back in our terminal, we will go ahead and change directory into the plugins directory. And then we'll just go ahead and wget. Make sure you use those sudo permissions, and then we'll get that. So now if we list that out, we have the zip file, and then we'll just do onzip, and then we'll do calendar. Actually, we'll just do this. It's already there. For whatever reason, it's not uppercase, so we're just gonna do this. So again, we'll use the move command and we'll specify the directory that we want to change. So in this case, it's calendar, and then specify the uppercase calendar, and make sure we use sudo. Remove that zip file. And then if we head back over to the web page and click refresh, here at the top, you'll notice that you now have a calendar button, which is super cool. So if we click in there, we now have a breakdown. So if we had multiple tasks due on certain days, here's where we'd be able to see it on a calendar view. And again, you could even go into week and day if you needed to. So one of the downsides or limitations to the calendar, I had just figured out, it is not a limitation. It was just a misunderstanding on my part. So in this case, if you go to my calendar when you're in the dashboard, you could see all tasks assigned to the admin user, which is what we are logged in as. So if we go back and since you only seen one task there, if you go back into the project for the YouTube, edit that one and assign this to the admin user, head back to the dashboard, my calendar, you'll now be able to see all tasks assigned to the admin user. And one last plugin, since it is so easy and I had already played around with it, one of the things that I was looking for was a dark theme, as I do not enjoy the light theme for anything. In this case, it was not able to be done by default. So I went into the plugins and I looked at the different themes that are available. There's a bunch. One of the ones that I liked the most was the customizer. So if we go ahead and click on that again, kind of do the same thing. So we'll just go to releases here on the right, and then we will get the link address for the zip file again for the customizer. Head back over to our plugins directory and we are going to do the same thing. Sudo wget and then paste the address. Once we have that, again, we're going to unzip it. Remove that. And as you can see, it already has the capitalized. Actually, I'm not even sure for this plugin if it matters or not. But let's go ahead and go back. Let's go ahead and go back to the Kanboard website. Go ahead again and refresh it. Go to the top right, go to settings. And in there, you'll now see that we have two new options. The calendar settings, kind of left it at default. But then you will also see the customizer in here, which is pretty cool. You go ahead and add images or modify the images. Log on page. So in here, I haven't played around with this, but in the on the GitHub repository, I think, let's see if we go back. You can see that you could modify the login page, which is super cool. So if maybe if this was for your organization or just even for your home lab and you wanted a certain theme, go ahead and you could change that login, which is pretty cool. If you go to manage themes, in here you could change the default theme. So for instance, the first thing that I tried was kind of dark, and when I went ahead and saved it, didn't really change much. Kind of just changes the outside of it. I would like the background to be black, but if you go back in there, there's a few other options. None of them do change the background or really get a true dark theme, but there is a few that you kind of go around and play with. Another option that you have available to you, so you could create your own theme on here, which is pretty cool. So if you go to theme creator, you could create a test theme or whatever you want, and you could actually, it gives you the options to go ahead and change it yourself with all the different color options available. Just click on a color, hit OK. I did run into an error when I was doing it earlier, but I did not specify a color for everything, so maybe that was why, as I did not play around with it too much. What I did do though is I opened up in the terminal. I went into the terminal as I wanted to see the files that were being used, and then if you go ahead and go into the customizer directory that we had just downloaded within that plugins directory, go into the assets directory, and in here under CSS and themes, you will see those default themes already there. So if you know CSS, you go ahead and just like copy this. And then if we want to go ahead and edit that file, I wouldn't suggest doing it in Vim. You could use Visual Studio Code or something like that for ease. Or you could do it in Vim if it's something simple. But then you go ahead and specify everything in here. So if you want to make changes to that theme, since you already like some of it, but maybe you want to just change the background color. If you don't know how, maybe jump up into ChatGPT, ask them how in a CSS file, how can you specify the background color for each of the directories or each of the pages within that web server. It'll show you, and then go ahead and modify whatever you would like. So that's another option that you have available to you to modify the theme within that customizer plugin. And that's pretty much going to close out today's video. So really all I wanted to do was highlight the option that I had selected for managing my projects. And in this case, it is Kanboard, as I feel like it is the best option available to me for many reasons. Some of them being the integrations that are available to me. It's self-hosted, it's open source. Another good thing is there's an API. It's definitely the way to go for what I need it for. And in this case, it's not always about how much features you have. Sometimes just a simple Kanboard will do the job, and in this case it will, as I'm able to manage multiple projects by setting up different tasks within those projects and then viewing it within a calendar. I could also use the API to pull that information and put it elsewhere, maybe into another dashboard, or there's even Slack integrations and stuff like that, Discord and Gmail integrations, allowing myself to be notified when a task is due or overdue and stuff like that. The other reason why I kind of like this too is I could all use this within GitHub. So that's another skill that those that are in the industry or following this lab, they should go ahead and use that as well, because that is a way to version control your environment. It's also, I don't want to say a backup, that's not the correct word, but in a non-production environment, let's say I had to move this information to another server as another web server, not on my Raspberry Pi, but maybe on my Dell R620, and I want to put some web server on there. I can go ahead and just go to my GitHub repository, my private repository, and pull that down or clone that repository onto the new web server. And now I have everything available to me, as it is all just text files, PHP files, and we'll be good to go within minutes. So that's going to close out today's video. I hope you were able to take something away. I probably will get another video out in the future with how I am using this solution, the different integrations, the API. Maybe I'll also cover how you could use this within GitHub, so you could kind of learn that side of the world with managing repositories and stuff like that. So I hope you were able to take something away. As always, never stop learning.